Hola amigos, ¿qué tal? Stuart here from Spain Speaks with an update on the current situation in Spain, day 162 of the current situation, and we'll have a look at some of the news that has caught my attention over the last couple of days. Firstly, a big thanks to all of the people that left comments on the last video. Lots of comments, lots of debate happening there as usual. Thanks to people that supported the channel through a small donation. You can see your names here. Thanks to people that bought merchandise. And a big thanks to my patrons on Patreon for your ongoing support. Now let's have a look at some of the news that has caught my attention. And the international press, as I mentioned yesterday, has started to criticize Spain heavily again. Various articles in various publications around the world asking the question, what has gone wrong in Spain in recent times and why are case numbers rising again and why does the situation appear to be out of control in certain areas? This article here from the Washington Post, Spain is becoming a coronavirus cautionary tale again, with that particular article ending by saying that there was no real effort to discourage Spaniards from doing what they loved the most, meet friends and family. Almost half of the new infection outbreaks in July began in family gatherings. And the Financial Times has a similar article pushing a similar narrative with the headline saying socializing pushes Spain's COVID-19 rate far above the rest of Europe. Surging cases may affect reopening of schools, officials warn. And they quote one Spanish expert who said the phase out of the lockdown accelerated too much in June, said Miguel Otero, an analyst at the Elcano Institute, a think tank who served on a government committee on the transition to a new normality. People had the impression the virus was coming under control and there was huge pressure on the economy to reopen, particularly the tourism and entertainment sectors. Mr. Otero also suggested that part of the reason why COVID-19 was now more prevalent in Spain than elsewhere was the country's love of bar hopping and of family gatherings. So two international publications there pushing a similar story to local press that family gatherings and socializing are the main reasons for the recent spike in outbreaks in Spain. So what was it that led to people thinking that the virus situation was under control? Well, if we go back to the beginning of July, we can see here in articles like this one that Sanchez, the Prime Minister, asks the Spanish not to be afraid of outbreaks and to go out into the streets to reactivate the economy. The president of the government assures in La Coruña that the pandemic is defeated and that the social and economic crisis will be short but hard. So there you go. That's what the Prime Minister said. Don't be afraid. Go out into the street, reactivate the economy. And of course, that's what people did. And as some people have said recently, we're going back to square one. And the media now seems to be telling us to be afraid and to get off the streets. So the exact opposite to what the Prime Minister said less than 2 months ago. Now, as we have seen in recent times, the Madrid area has become a hotspot again, especially in neighborhoods in the south of the city. We can see here that the Madrid region recommends people in areas with the highest coronavirus infections to stay at home. However, residents in the south of Madrid are ignoring the voluntary confinement and people are skipping the quarantine. The daily routine of many remains intact in the districts of Usera and Puente de Vallecas, the areas with the most outbreaks of COVID-19 in the region, where the Ministry of Health has recommended staying at home and avoiding meeting with other people. So it seems that the message of voluntary confinement not getting through to people in those areas. Now we'll have a quick look at the health situation in Spain at the moment. We'll go to the map of the evolution of cases accumulated in the last 14 days per 100,000 inhabitants. And we can see here Madrid up to 313 cases per 100,000. Andalucía is sitting at 71 cases per 100,000, and Asturias still the autonomous community in Spain with the lowest amount of cases per 100,000 people at 33.05. So that gives you an idea of where we are at, and as we saw, that dark blue area basically covering the whole of the northern part of the country. Now, as we have seen in recent times, many autonomous communities are implementing lots of new restrictions. We can see here that Castilla-La Mancha has decided to prohibit the sale of alcohol between 10 p.m. and 8 a.m. due to the coronavirus. Castilla-La Mancha, a pioneer in the application of other restrictions such as the closing of brothels, will prohibit the sale of alcohol between 10 p.m. and 8 a.m. to try to contain coronavirus infections, although it may continue to be consumed in hotel establishments and bars and restaurants. So there you can see Castilla-La Mancha prohibiting the sale of alcohol and also a pioneer when it comes to the closing of brothels. Now, I'm not really up to speed on the situation of brothels in Spain, although I do know that there are many scattered around the country. You quite often see them on the highways when you're leaving the big cities. For example, when you leave Madrid heading east, south and west, you quite often see these places on the side of the road with their flashing lights trying to entice punters in. And apparently Castilla-La Mancha is the region in Spain with the highest number of these venues. And it's a topic that's been in the news quite a lot recently, considering the fact that brothels have been allowed to stay open when other nightlife venues have been forced to close. Apparently there was some type of legal loophole which allowed these venues to stay open. But as we can see here in this headline, Castilla-La Mancha will close brothels to stop difficult to trace COVID-19 outbreaks. Difficult to trace COVID-19 outbreaks. Now, I mentioned in yesterday's video that the Madrid community is having trouble implementing its smoking ban and closing down nightlife venues because of a judge's decision to annul that new law. We can see here that a judge cancels Madrid's prevention measures against coronavirus, and the magistrate's decision could set a precedent in the rest of the country and revoke all the measures that had been taken in recent days in the Spanish capital in the fight against COVID-19. This decision is based on the fact that the judge understands that in the absence of publication in the official gazette of the state, the BOE, the Community of Madrid does not have full powers to take this type of measures, since they must be analysed in the context of a state of emergency as they limit fundamental rights. So a legal setback there for the Madrid government that's been trying to push these new measures through. Of course, these measures were approved in a meeting between the central government and the 17 autonomous communities, and each autonomous community has been rolling them out at different times, but a judge throwing a spanner in the works in Madrid, and it could set a precedent for the rest of the country as well. However, the Madrid regional government has announced that it will appeal the magistrate's order, to which it has requested a clarification. So we'll keep an eye on what happens there over the next few days regarding these new bans and prohibitions which have come into place in Spain. And finally, some good news for Portugal's tourism industry, as we can see here that Portugal has been added to the UK's safe list, but Croatia has been removed. And the Portuguese president, Mr. Costa, has come out on Twitter saying that the UK is adding Portugal to its list of travel corridors from Saturday the 22nd of August. To the Portuguese community in the UK and to British visitors, bem-vindos, welcome back. So the Portuguese government happy to be on that safe travel list now for UK citizens. So if you're in the UK and looking to have a holiday, Portugal should be high on your list. Now let's have a look at some of the comments from the last video. One here from Becky: when you look around and see that the idea of distancing has not actually been in operation in many places, especially amongst young people, it is not surprising that COVID is spreading. People gather, they might wear masks, but completely ignore distancing. The government needs to get this distance information across to the people. We are on the Costa del Sol, and while people try to distance on the beach, they forget the rest of the time. Yeah, Becky, thanks for the comment. And as we have seen, that has been one of the main reasons attributed to the increase in cases. People gathering in groups, people not wearing masks, people letting their guard down, especially apparently among the younger generations. And of course, we saw the other day the Chief Health Officer, Mr. Simon, ask influencers to try to get the message across to the younger generations, because they seem to be the groups that have forgotten that the virus exists. And it is difficult for a lot of people in Spain because they love close contact. They love hugging, they love kissing, but in times of a pandemic, probably not the best thing to be doing. One here from Bias: thank you for the info, Stuart. I'm Spanish and appreciate your point of view. The reason that tobacco shops were opened was that in estancos there are also the official papers like stamps and some certificates. Yeah, thanks for the comment there, Bias. I had actually forgotten that you can buy stamps and other official documents at the estanco. I haven't purchased a stamp for quite a while, so I had forgotten that is one of the things that they sell there. I mainly only see people going into those places to buy tobacco. You see a lot of people lining up on a Saturday morning outside the estanco, and I imagine they're buying tobacco and not stamps. But as you said, they do have that official capacity, and that's probably one of the reasons that they were able to be open during the state of alarm. One here from the one and only: it's funny how everyone was laughing at Sweden and calling the Swedish government mad. Well, it's now coming to light that Sweden now thinks it's achieved herd immunity. Just think, they only had a very limited lockdown. They were not forced to wear a mask, very limited social distancing rules. Sweden lost very little business or money, and life in Sweden is normal. Yeah, thanks for the comment. You're right. There's lots of talk about Sweden in recent times. Remember that Sweden chose a different path to a lot of other countries in Europe and around the world. They chose to remain relatively open. They chose not to have a strict lockdown, and they did go for that herd immunity idea, which was also talked about in the UK and a few other countries around the world. However, in Spain, we never really heard the word herd immunity. It wasn't on the political agenda, and I still don't think that it is. But I also read the other day that Sweden had a lot more deaths in that period than it normally has, so I think the jury is still out on whether Sweden was the example that everybody should have followed. One here from Maria. Hi Stu, thank you for the videos. Talking about learning Spanish and the different accents per region, why do you say that Andalusia, Cádiz, Malaga are the hardest or most difficult to understand? Just curious. Yeah, Maria, thanks for the comment. I said the other day that I find those particular areas quite difficult to understand. I think it's because of the slang and some of the words that they use down there that differ to different places in Spain, and also the fact that they tend to cut some letters off the end of words, for example. That could also be one of the reasons. And also in Malaga, for example, they get the th and the s sound mixed up quite a little bit. For example, once in Malaga, I heard somebody say, "Tu sí que sabes." One here from John. Go to your bank to buy health insurance. I'm paying €100 a month for healthcare at age 61. When I tried to buy insurance in the US before arrival, they were in the range you mentioned. Yeah, thanks for the comment, John. This comment relates to one that we had the other day of a couple of people who were coming to Spain, and they said that they were being quoted somewhere between 3 and 12,000 euros for health insurance. We can see here that John picks his up for €100 a month. So what's that? 1,200 a year. So a lot cheaper than the prices that were being quoted in that previous comment. And you can get insurance through the banks. For example, CaixaBank, Banco Santander also offers insurance. So maybe going through the banks is the best way to get insurance. Or of course, in some of those insurance agencies in the country like Mafre, Sanitas, Adeslas, etc. One here from Cheryl. Doesn't make me feel so bad in South Africa. Our release of lockdown is much slower. Day 146 and only level 2. Still 2 steps to go. Only just allowed cigarettes, and smoking in public has been banned for years already. Yeah, Cheryl, thanks for the comment. I've also heard that South Africa has been quite strict with the lockdown. Alcohol, I think, was prohibited there. As you can see here, cigarettes as well. So a lot stricter than it has been in Spain. Day 146 there and still on level 2. So a huge difference, it seems, with the way South Africa and Spain have handled the lockdown and the confinements. One here from Clyde. Ola Stewart, I can understand why the virus is so pervasive along the coastal tourist-driven economies, but how is it that the situation in Aragon is so severe? You wouldn't consider Zaragoza as a popular tourist mecca, or do you? Yeah, Clyde, thanks for the comment. It's been a bit difficult for me also to understand what happened there in Zaragoza or in Aragon. I think the problems originally started in places like Huesca, which are in the north of the country, some of the more agricultural areas. And of course, they have a border there with Catalonia, with Lerida, which also had a severe outbreak a couple of months ago. And that could be one of the reasons for the increase in cases in that area. And one of the problems could have been that people were traveling around internally inside that province, moving from place to place, coming down from Huesca to Zaragoza. That could be one of the reasons. Another reason could be that Aragon is quite a big transport hub, being in the middle of Madrid and Barcelona. That could also be another reason. And the city of Zaragoza might not attract a lot of tourists from outside the country, but a lot of people from Spain visit the city to see the cathedrals, the basilica, and all of the other magnificent monuments that they have in the city. So that also could be one of the reasons. One here from Jonathan. You almost have a negative tone about Spain in your recent videos. I like that you're trying to help us with the truth, but I don't want to be deterred from my dream of moving to the country unless the negatives become long term. Yeah, Jonathan, thanks for the comment, and sorry if you think I've been a bit negative in recent times. Maybe the situation's just getting me down. Maybe it's been the news about the economy. Maybe it's been the news about case numbers increasing. Maybe it's been talk about possible confinements again in places like Madrid. Or maybe it's the fact that September's just around the corner and I have to deal with my son going back to school and what that is going to be like for him, all of the other students, and all of the parents that are going to be in a similar situation. But don't be deterred and keep your dreams alive. One here from Kevin. Spain goes on holiday in August, no matter what. You can't get a washing machine repaired or buy property or even sent to jail. No one in a government position works in August. Then we have the return, so it's the middle of September till things go back to normal. Yeah, Kevin, thanks for the comment. And you're right, Spain is a country that virtually shuts down in August. People move to the coastal areas, people are on holidays, and people don't really want to do things. Hard to get things done, very, very difficult in fact to get things done. You're right, if you want to get something repaired, if you want to buy property, even if you want to buy a newspaper in a city like Madrid in August, it can be difficult because many, many places close. Bars and restaurants in the capital also shut down. Maybe it's not as bad as it was 20 years ago. When I first came to Madrid, I couldn't believe how deserted the city became. You couldn't get anything done during the month of August, and things don't start to come back to normal until the 15th of September or even sometimes October. And of course, from the 20th of December through to the 7th or 8th of January, you can't get anything done either. But that's the way Spain works. On that note, I'll start to wrap the video up. Questions or comments, please leave them in the section below. Debate the situation out as you normally do. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. See you in the next one. Hasta luego.